A good evening, ladies and gentlemen, aunties and uncles, nieces and nephews, mothers and fathers, dinner ladies and the Andy Man, kings and queens, and princes and princesses. The gender lobby are trying to erase all these terms. Be warned. Well, welcome to my stream. Um, I'd firstly like to start to condemn Cardiff Pride and Cardiff Police for removing lesbians from Pride in Cardiff. It's rightfully being condemned all over social media, and I'm particularly sure, I'm pretty sure, should I say, this will have a negative impact on Cardiff Pride in the future. If Pride isn't for lesbians, then who is it for? You know, it's this is an embarrassment really for Cardiff Pride, but you probably won't see that yet. But in the future, this will be looked upon as an embarrassment for Cardiff Pride. Right. Well, I firstly, so tonight we're going to be talking about the unnecessary, sinister, and cowardly attacks on LGB Alliance. But first, I just wanted to thank the 3,000 followers on Getter that I've now got. Yeah, I have 3,000 followers on Getter. I really do appreciate that, and I really want to thank each and every one of you because it's a very safe place to be. It's a very healthy place to be. It's a very good place to be. And it's the future place to be quite honest. With Twitter making it very unpleasant for women and routinely banning women and routinely banning gay men. There's quite a few gay men being kicked off Twitter for, stating the basic rights, rejecting gender nonsense, and they've been banned off. So Getter is becoming it's got millions and millions of people on it now, and I've got 3,000 followers. So I just want to say thank you. If you do want to follow me on Getter, my Getter profile is in the information below. Please do. My nose is itchy. Yep. So that's Getter for you. A brilliant platform. Getter is the future. Getter is better, and I think we're going to see that Getter is going to become a major concern in the future. It's certainly one of the biggest, the fastest, should I say, growing platforms that social media as there's ever been. So it's the fastest growing platform there's ever been. Right. Okay. Let's move on. I think I've got quite ill today, so I've got a bit of a cold. So that's why I'm itching my nose. I've been sneezing and everything, so I've probably got COVID. I don't know, but I'm quite ill, so have to excuse me. But we're going to move on now. The professional registered charity LGBT Alliance, founded in 2019, it's a charity set up to support and fight the rights of lesbian, gay, and bisexual people. You would think, especially in 2022, this wouldn't be a problem. After all, there are many charities out there, and there are also some charities out there that are against LGBT people. But the trans lobby only mention LGB Alliance. They only want to bring LGB Alliance down. I mean, they're more concerned with the smearing of LGB Alliance across social media, systematically attacking a charity by simply spreading lies and misinformation. For example, I regularly see posts incorrectly stating that most of LGB Alliance's members are heterosexual, straight, not LGB people. LGB Alliance doesn't have members. So, what is all the fuss about? Well, LGB Alliance was set up because more and more lesbians, gay men, bisexuals were becoming increasingly concerned about Stonewall. Stonewall, Stonewall, if you don't know, was originally set up in the 80s to fight and campaign for the rights of lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals. It was an LGB organization. It was the LGB organization actually for the separate after the separation of the Gay Liberation Front. I remember being a Stonewall member actually. Angela Mason was the director. It was a good organization back then, doing what it was set out to do, doing what its mission statement was at that time. However, this organization, Stonewall, is very different today. It's become very controversial. And lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals are walking away, and more keep walking away every day. To be honest, I mean, they're all walking away, and even some trans people themselves have become increasingly concerned about Stonewall's new direction. Many I speak to say that Stonewall have completely thrown lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals under a bus in favour of supporting trans, and not just trans, but the trans ideology. And I actually agree that that's exactly the problem with Stonewall. They're subscribing to a gender ideology, which is silly. It's rubbish. It's not workable in our society, but they're still pursuing it on with it. Um, but we're not talking about support for trans people that you know so even though people are saying that they've gone in favor of supporting Stonewall are not actually supporting trans people, and it's unlikely it's unlikely that they're actually supporting trans people by what they're doing, because they're causing trans people more enemies, they're causing trans people more issues and more things. And instead, like I've explained, Stonewall really push a trans ideology which really isn't in the interest of trans people, and trans people are starting to find that out now. you know this ideology isn't it's in the interests of trans people. It's certainly not in the interests of LGBT people, and it's most definitely not in the interests of women, children, in fact, everyone else. I mean, we've certainly seen it's not in the interests of women. I mean, women are screaming and campaigning all over the United Kingdom and now all over the Western world over this gender ideology. So it's not going to work eventually. I mean, what's going to happen is that Stonewall and their ilk are going to bring themselves down by doing what they're doing, but they do continue. Trans ideology, which I talk about a lot in my streams, is responsible for the problems in many things today, like women's sports, because biologically born males are being given excuse me, biologically born males have been given a platform to cheat, so women actually don't win their medals. In science and biology, it's very clear that males have an advantage over females. I mean, anybody can see that. So why don't trans subscribe to science and biology? It's a good question. Biologically born males are given full access to women's changing room, showers, and toilets. That's very creepy. Trans activists don't think so. Trans ideology is responsible for the surge in children being confused about the gender, because it's been promoted in schools. And nobody's born in the wrong body. We know that. That's the way nature made you. But when a pernicious ideology is being pushed in schools onto our vulnerable pupils, and from the age of 3, kids are bound to become confused about the gender. It's common sense. They're being messed about, and they really are. And gender clinic referrals are up tenfold. You would think that this common sense, enough to pull in the rails, but no, trans activists are aggressively carrying on pushing agenda nonsense to be taught in our schools to our vulnerable kids, to confuse them about what gender they're in. Trans activists don't care what's happening to your children. Trans activists are even pushing for the removal of girls' toilets from schools, and which sadly they are succeeding. Trans activists are of serious concern to women's rights, women's spaces, and children's education, child safeguarding, and LGBT rights. It's time you stop supporting them. They're pushing crap. So why are the trans lobby hell-bent on spreading lies about LGBT Alliance and trying to get this civilized, professional, registered charity shut down? After all, you never see trans activists oppose other charities that are clearly against LGBT and T people. It's simple. The great professional registered charity LGBT Alliance subscribe to biology, science, and law, something that trans activists do not. LGBT Alliance realizes the damage that Stonewall and trans activists are doing to the gay rights platform by pushing a nonsensical ideology that isn't in the interests of society. Thankfully, society are waking up and fighting against this, but there's a big push, there's a big fight. So I regularly explain to lesbian, gay men, and bisexual people that if you allow these trans activists on your platform spouting this nonsense, in the future, LGBT people and their platform won't be trusted. The future is The future's out there. You know, the tide is turning on gender ideology, and if LGBT people don't stand up and stop and get these people off that platform, okay, and speak out about this rubbish that's been done on your platform, people will be very weary of you in the future. So please do speak out. I regularly tell that to all lesbian, gay, and bisexual people. So the unnecessary, sinister, and cowardly smearing of LGBT Alliance is just plain silly. They're just another organisation at the end of the day. They're just another charity. Lesbian, gay men, and bisexuals don't and shouldn't require the permission of trans activists to have their own organisation. But trans activists are sinister. They are aggressive, and they've hijacked the gay rights platform for their own agenda. It's not a very nice agenda. And they are determined to stop any LGBT organisation from splitting from the T. This is another reason why they cowardly attack the LGBT Alliance. It's now, it's now the only LGBT organisation in the United Kingdom. It's unlikely any others will dare set up in the near future. So why do trans activists need the gay rights platform? Why cannot they just have their own platform? It's simple. Nobody would have ever and will ever support an ideology which aggressively has been pushed to damage women's sports, erase women's language, indoctrinate our children, and force people to believe that men can miraculously turn into women and vice versa. So that's why they need the gay rights platform. The reason, because people have been made to believe that this is a gay and lesbian issue, and it's clearly not. The trans is not a gay and lesbian issue, because that is a platform that these trans activists have hijacked. Thankfully, gay people are walking away from it. Lesbian people are walking away, and bisexual people are walking away from, the trans lobby. We're seeing that all the time. Which is good. If the professional registered charity LGBT Alliance was to become the main charity for just LGBT people, the trans lobby and their ideology would just simply collapse. Nobody would believe their gender rubbish, because it is rubbish. For this reason, the trans lobby aggressively pushes to smear lies about the LGBT Alliance across social media. And they're really attempting to have LGBT Alliance shut down. Hello, Amy. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate you being on. I think I've got COVID, so I'm a little bit ill. So I've got a bit of a groggy voice, but I will carry on. I will carry on with the show. But thanks for joining. You will probably notice on social media platforms like Twitter that anybody gets in the path of these aggressive trans activists get attacked themselves. I see it practically every day. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I speak out. I, like the many, don't believe in the silly gender nonsense ideology, and I can see the damage that it's been, that this gender ideology is impacting on children, women, LGBT people, in fact, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Amy. Yes, yeah, I don't know where the COVID came from, but I think I may have it. I haven't been diagnosed, but the couple of people that I've been around have got COVID, so I'm presuming it's COVID. But I think I'm seeing the worst of it, actually. The last couple of nights have been, last couple of days and nights have been pretty rough. But but thanks for asking. Right, so I'm lost. Lost where I am now. Okay, so this idea, again, this ideology is made up nonsense, designed, and this ideology is designed to remove the safeguarding of the rights of women and children, and that's what we're seeing. This is what everybody's seeing. But thankfully, as I say, more and more people are waking up to the damage to what this ideology is doing to the very fabric of our society. People are seeing that the indoctrination of gender theory is not good for children. It's damaging children. And thankfully, more and more lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals are walking away from Stonewall, which I'm really happy to see. And thankfully, more government departments and organisations like the BBC are dropping Stonewall's controversial champion schemes, and more will follow. I have been informed that there is discussions at boardroom level of other organizations, let's say, that are looking to drop Stonewall. So there's going to be more dropping of Stonewall's champions schemes in the future, which is good. So you may ask yourself, why do trans activists think it's okay to wreck women's sports, invade women's spaces, and erase women's language? And there's one simple answer to this. Trans activists have no respect for women. They've got no respect for children. And like we've seen in Swansea today, they have no respect for LGBT people or anybody but themselves. They're very self-centered people who believes the world revolves around them. Trans activists regularly try to convince everybody that detransitioners don't exist, but can you work out why? You know, they pretend to everybody that males don't have a biological advantage over women in sports. What do you think? You know, do you subscribe to science like me? I do. And, you know, I think it's very obvious that males have a biological advantage to women. They deny that children under 16 are having breasts amputated or being castrated in the name of trans medicine. The proof, if you go and look, is out there. Regularly we see proof of this happening. LGB Alliance speaks out a lot about detransitioners because a lot of gay and lesbian people are being caught up in this big medical scandal. It's strange but not surprising. I don't see Stonewall speak out about what's happening. You would have thought they would have at least acknowledged some of the horrors that have happened in the Tavistock, but no. Thankfully, the professional registered charity LGB Alliance speak out a lot about this because the horrors of what has happened to children at the Tavistock should be spoken about, because what's happened to these vulnerable children is wrong. That's why this controversial clinic was shut down. And that's why a damning report cited that this clinic was unsafe for children. I wouldn't bank on trans activists speaking out about the horrors of the Tavistock either. In fact, from what I'm seeing, they're pretending nothing happened. And there is a reason why trans activists don't want to speak out and try to cover up these horrors, because trans ideology, as we all know, is like a balloon. Everything is held together with lies. If they admit that a male, however they identify, shouldn't be undertaking sports in the female category, well, this means that males shouldn't be in women's spaces. They shouldn't be in women's showers. They shouldn't be in women's changing rooms. You know, it means that men are not women, and boom, everything collapses. Trans ideology is finished. I wish, you know, I wish it were. I wish that balloon would pop. Is what I meant to say. That I really do wish that balloon would pop. But that's exactly what happens. You know, trans people can have rights, but they don't need a trans ideology. You know, to do this. It's terrible. If men want to dress up as women, you know, let them do that. But they shouldn't need to force everything else onto the rest of society. It's so wrong, and you know, thankfully, society now is fighting back. So, what do people think can be done to stop this unnecessary witch hunt against this professional registered charity LGB Alliance? You know, if you can suggest anything that can help LGB Alliance, please let me know in the comments. My DMs are open on Twitter and Getter. You know, please do speak out. I regularly talk to people now about a lot of things, you know. So if you've got anything to say, any questions, any comments, any suggestions, please do DM me. My DMs on Getter and Twitter are open. Twitter for now until I get banned. Right. So these deluded and deranged people that are calling themselves trans activists, of which many are actually not trans, but they spend their days smearing lies about LGB Alliance across social media, trying to bring this professional, registered, brilliant charity down. The same people aggressively pushing gender theory into our schools to indoctrinate our kids as young as 3 years old. You know, I just saw an article where disgusted parents have launched an emergency legal action to stop compulsory gender classes for 3-year-olds. You know what that means? More people confused about the gender, you know, more people at the gender clinics, and who knows what's is going to happen with these vulnerable children. It's really horrible to think. And the same people, the same deranged and trans people calling themselves trans activists, are also aggressively pushing gender theory, which is now in 4,000 schools in the US. I saw an article recently which stated that radical gender theory is now being pushed in more than 4,000 United States schools or across America. To say these people aren't going after your kids is an understatement. With their gender rubbish, it's certainly a big understatement. So, yeah, I mean, this is what's happening to our, you know, LGB Alliance. You know, it's an organization that's set up to support and speak out on behalf of LG people, is just regularly attacked, smeared with lies from people that just want to bring it down because they don't want people to know that gender ideology is rubbish, which we all know is rubbish. They want to carry on with gender ideology. And of course, people like LGB Alliance speak out about that because homosexuals are homosexuals. They're not homogenderals. And that's why we speak out. That's why they speak out. That's why a lot of gender people critical of gender are speaking out. They're trying to bring them down, but they're particularly having a go at LGB Alliance because it's really hitting them where it hurts on the trans lobby. So these so-called progressive people that routinely attack women online at their place of work and at events for simply speaking up for women's rights and child safeguarding, these are the so-called progressive people who cause pylon after pylon to shut women up, you know, to get women silenced, to get women banned, suspended, or accounts locked on Twitter and other Silicon Valley social media. These are the people coming after LGB Alliance simply because this professional registered charity subscribes to the Equality Act of Great Britain, subscribes to biology, and subscribes to science. This professional registered charity, LGB Alliance, was set up in opposition to the controversial Stonewall. This is the so-called LGBT charity, which many LGBT people have said abandoned them in favour of pernicious gender ideology. Recently, and much to the surprise of people still supporting Stonewall, they tweeted out the following outrageous tweet, which actually outraged many people across Britain. Even the people that are still supporting Stonewall were still confused about the tweet. So I'm going to read that tweet out again to ensure that everybody knows what Stonewall are tweeting out. And they said, research suggests that children as young as 2 recognize their trans identity. Yet many nurseries and schools teach a binary understanding of pre-assigned gender. LGBTQ inclusive and affirming education is crucial for the well-being of all young people. You know, and this was in that was a tweet where saying my 4-year-old gender non-conforming, my daughter is a 4-year-old gender non-conforming, and the nursery don't have the you know, they're not teaching the necessary. I mean, this is what Stonewall are now. You know, I mean, they can only be going after your children. It's very obvious that trans activists and Stonewall are going after kids as young as 3. Okay, and that's what's happening. This has been forced in schools in Wales, which is why there's legal action to try to stop it. This is what's happening. LGB Alliance do not agree and don't support, okay, gender ideology being promoted in schools, especially to people as young as 3 years old, you know. But let me know what you think about this statement from Stonewall. I mean, let me know in the comments, DM me, you know, let me know what you think about these comments, because I think this is pretty disgusting. I think it's pretty sick what Stonewall have said. I really do. I think it's not a charity I want to be associated with, and I'm sure that, you know, it's not a charity that more and more gay people, lesbian and bisexual people don't want to be associated with. So yeah, you know, there we go. So moving on, if my COVID will let me, the controversial trans charity Mermaids and their ilk have launched a thoughtless attempt to have LGB Alliance's charity status removed. It's extremely unlikely that mermaids can win, and it will likely expose mermaids themselves in ways they haven't actually anticipated. But this pointless challenge costs money, and LGB Alliance has been forced to raise nearly £250,000 simply to fight back. That's the law, unfortunately. If they don't fight back, they'll simply lose the charity status because mermaids have just done what they've done. So you can help defend this professional registered charity, LGB Alliance, from mermaids attack by making a donation to their crowdfunder, which the crowdfunder is below. And more importantly, if you can share this crowdfunder, it's below in the information. If you can share this crowdfunder across your networks, so that you can bring this to the attention of people of what Mermaids is actually doing, and, you know, maybe they can support it as well. be really good. One thing is for certain, the professional registered charity LGB Alliance isn't going anywhere. You know, it's gaining more and more support from lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals, because the reality is that the gay community are rejecting transgender ideology. This is why LGB drop the T hashtag trended on Twitter, because LGB people have had enough of the trans lobby spouting out nonsense on the gay rights platform. They've had enough of the trans lobby wrecking women's sports, eradicating women's spaces, erasing women, indoctrinating our vulnerable children from the age of 3 with a gender theory full of nonsense. Even people like me cannot believe how it got into schools in the first place. That's a really good question. How did, you know, this gender nonsense get into school in the first place? I just don't know. It's ridiculous. I cannot believe that it got in. But expect this professional registered charity, the LGB Alliance, to be more supported in the coming years, because they are gaining traction, and expect Stonewall to lose even more champion member schemes, and they'll get less supporters. I am seeing this. I have, you know, people have mentioned, as I say, that there is discussions on boardroom levels to drop the Stonewall champion scheme from their, let's say, organisations. I know that the government departments as well. You know, this has been discussed at the moment, so they are going to lose a few more champion schemes. I'm pretty confident of that. Members, so champion scheme members. So the future is bright. The future is LGB Alliance. And if you're still not convinced LGB Alliance isn't for you, that's fine too. You know, but you don't support. Please don't support frustrated trans activists trying to bring the only UK LGB professional charity down, because they're not going, you know, just because they're not going to succeed. Trans activists are not going to succeed in bringing this charity down. They're not going to win, you know, and like many charities, LGB Alliance is here to stay, you know. So gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, you know, as I've said, shouldn't need permission from a trans lobby to have their own charity. And this is really what this is about, you know, them wanting permission, but not just wanting permission. They want to bring a charity down, okay, for simply, you know, supporting gay people as homosexuals and not homogenderals. It's, you know, it's unbelievable. So lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals shouldn't have to redefine their sexuality as well to appease a nonsensical trans lobby, you know, or Stonewall, you know, who are doing this. I mean, no, they shouldn't have to do this. LGB Alliance is, as we know, a professional registered charity promoting the rights of lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals as defined in the Equality Act 2010. That is, on the basis of sex. What sort of other charities would redefine homosexuals as homogenderals? Think about it. Think what these charities are actually doing. They're appeasing an aggressive trans lobby, you know, and that's what Stonewall are doing, appeasing an aggressive trans lobby and throwing lesbians, gays, and bisexuals under a bus. And now they're trying to bring a charity down who doesn't think we are homogenderals, who doesn't think that, you know, gay people are homogenderals. It's silly, and they're not going to succeed. And the future is going to be pretty good. So, you know, I think so. I think the future is going to change, but we need to fight. We need to fight really hard. We need to fight strong in order to stop Stonewall, other organizations that have, you know, and the trans lobby, you know, the aggressive trans lobby, from redefining sexuality, because really redefining sexuality is offensive, it's homophobic, and it's in nobody's interests. I'm still struggling to believe that the trans lobby want this. I'm still struggling to believe that Stonewall pushed this, but I really do hope that people out there wake up soon, because this is a reality. The professional registered charity LGB Alliance realizes the damage being done by Stonewall and the aggressive trans activists. You know, the professional registered charity LGB Alliance realizes the damage done in women's sports. This is, you know, what's happening in women's sports, not in the interests of anybody. You know, this is damage. This is collateral damage to our platform, to the LGB platform. You know, the professional registered charity LGB Alliance realizes the damage being done in schools with gender indoctrination. Parents are complaining about this. Gender clinics are getting too many referrals. Too many children are being confused about the gender. Vulnerable children are being confused about the gender simply because it's been pushed in schools, you know. So LGB Alliance, they realise the damage that this has been having on the gay rights platform, you know, and it will damage your platform. And if gay people don't come away from this trans ideology, okay, that's what'll happen. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I think I put something on there. So the professional registered charity LGB Alliance realised the damage this gender nonsense is having on our children and young people who are detransitioning at alarming rates with horrific consequences. I do hope you people out there realise too. There's too many detransitioners that are coming out. I mean, there shouldn't be any. You know, I mean, talk about one or two. There shouldn't be any detransitioners at all if they were diagnosed properly. You know, if they were treated properly, if we weren't changing children from one gender to another, we wouldn't be having this problem. You know, this is something that adults should be consenting for. Children are not allowed to have a tattoo, you know, yet they're allowed to have the penis chopped off. They're allowed to have the breasts amputated under the age of 60. Well, it's not in this country, but certainly in America. But they're allowed to take puberty blockers. You know, it's unacceptable. And that's when people are put on puberty blockers, they're put on a lifetime. You know, that's a chain reaction. It's puberty blockers put on very quickly, sometimes after one session, then to put on cross-sex hormones, then they're moved on to surgery. Profit for pharma, maybe? Of course it is. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm just going to cough. I'm just going to have a little bit of a drink just to clear my throat. Right. Okay. So, I've got through all that. So if anyone's got any questions about, you know, at all, you know, please let me know in the comments. We can chat. We can make this into a little chat show if you want, or I can carry on reading. I'm quite interested to know your thoughts on LGB Alliance and why you think that the trans activists are attacking a charity. You know, I'm quite interested to know what you think. So please do let me know. I'm just going to go into other news because I said I'd do a little bit of other news, and it's the American Academy of pediatrics have been in the news with their gender problem again. The reality is that the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't really want to talk about its gender problem, that the often unnecessary medicalization of kids, the castration of boys, and the amputations of healthy breasts from young girls, and this is underage in the United States as well. They're doing it under 16. You know, under 16s are getting this horrible, horrific treatment, which is, I believe, they're called trans medicine. Well, this is until these young people wake up and realize the horrors, what have actually been inflicted upon them. But it also doesn't want his 67,000 members to be silent too. You know, but these members are starting to speak out, and they want to speak out. So I asked the American Academy of Pediatrics, do you actually respect the children that you were doing this to? I asked the American Academy of Pediatrics, do you actually, you know, do you actually realize that, you know, that these kids may eventually wake up realizing that them, you know, that what you've inflicted on them is one of the biggest mistakes of their life. I mean, you know, or you know, well, not what the kids have done, it's what your members have done to them. That, you know, one day they're going to realize that they couldn't actually change from male to female, and it was all exaggeration, if I can say exaggeration. It was all lies. You know, that one day they're going to wake up realizing it wasn't about them, but about big pharma profits, about the gender clinics profits, and about the selfish adults who should have known better. You know, yeah, it is. This is what it is. This is really what it is. It's all about money and the kinks. Yeah, all about money and the kinks that are related to them as well. But it's about big pharma profits. It's about gender clinics profits. You know, this is what this is all about, and it's so so disgraceful, really, that, you know, they can't grow a pair. You know what I mean? To realize what they're actually doing. to vulnerable children. But thankfully, members of the American Academy of Pediatrics are starting to speak out, and thankfully, they are getting a lot of bad press. I'm sure that they'll get a lot more bad press in the future. Right, let's see what's been going off in the world then. I'd still like to talk about LGB Alliance. I can't think it. I mean, you know, I've said really what I can say, that the gender lobby are attacking LGB Alliance because, you know, they know that LGB Alliance are a threat. You know, they are trying to attack the charity status because they know that LGB Alliance are really protecting lesbian, gays, and bisexual people. You know, they're not allowing the trans lobby to redefine us. They're not, you know, and or if you know, they're going to fight against it. They're going to fight the trans lobby fighting against us. They're going to fight all this trans nonsense, trans lobby nonsense. You know, so you know, the clear reason is why LGB Alliance has been attacked is because they're a threat. They're a threat to the trans lobby, because what the trans lobby are doing is disgraceful. But right, so I'm going to move on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these poor lesbians that have been kicked out of Pride. I mean, the proof is here that lesbians, gays, and bisexuals have been kicked out of Pride. I think another one we had a guy, Alex, in Manchester, has also been escorted out of Pride. I mean, this is happening now to lesbians, gays, and bisexual people, you know, all the time. I mean, you know, they're not welcome. A lot of people just don't bother going to Pride if they're lesbian, gay, and bisexual, because they're clearly not welcome. And here's the proof. You know, lesbians have been kicked out. Alex has been kicked out. You know, we'll see more and more people that have been kicked out of Pride. I mean, you know, when you know, with this that's happened, not in Bristol, sorry, it was in Cardiff. Well, if I said Bristol, it's Cardiff, but we had issues in Cardiff as well. But you know, when trans activists became aggressive, the lesbians were threatened with arrest if they did not leave. You know, what a terrible thing to do to lesbians. I mean, Pride is being hijacked by the trans movement now, as we know, and lesbians, gay men, and bisexuals are clearly not welcome if they don't redefine themselves, if they don't subscribe to a nonsensical agenda. You know, it's totally irresponsible. And like I've said, and I do want to condemn. I want to condemn Cardiff Pride and Cardiff Police for removing lesbians from the Pride in Cardiff. I mean, this is highly offensive, to remove, you know, lesbians from their Pride. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, if Pride's not for lesbians, then who is it for? You know, for heaven's sake. I mean, this is, you know, but like I've said, it's been rightfully condemned across social media. The proof is out there. And the good thing is, excuse me, the good thing is that it's not just rightfully being condemned against social media, it's even attracting the attention of the press. And this will remain. So this will be part of history of what Cardiff Pride have done. And I'm pretty sure that this will have a negative impact for Pride in the future. You know, kicking lesbians out of a Pride, I mean, it's unheard of. It's silly. Right, so we've got the being entitled now. The Scottish Tavistock needs shutting down too. This is the Sandyford Clinic. I did a stream on the Sandyford Clinic earlier. Earlier on last month, I think it was, or yeah. This is another controversial clinic for children who are having controversial treatments. You know, there are people, you know, detransitioners are speaking out, and you know, there's you know, it's been nicknamed the Scottish Tavistock now, and yes, it does need to be closed. I'll give a reminder for people out there as well about this. About this crowdfunder for the professional registered charity LGB Alliance. They're having to raise nearly £250,000 to fight and defend its charity status. They've already raised well over 160,000 by a lot of really nice, generous people out there. But you know, if you can afford a little bit, you know, donate. I've donated several times to it, and if you can share it, I mean, please share this. Share this crowdfunding. It's vastly important that mermaids don't win. Mermaids can't win. It's highly unlikely that mermaids can't win, but unfortunately, LGB Alliance do have to defend what the attack that mermaids have launched on them. But like I've said, I think this is going to have an impact on mermaids, of what they've done. I mean, I'm going to argue with the Charities Commission that charities like Mermaids are not allowed to harass other charities in the way that they are, because this is solely harassment. They're not going to win, and the future will prove that. But this is something I am definitely going to argue with the Charities Commission. I just wanted to follow on from Port Townsend, the YMCA of Let Julie Swim. This is the story of Julie, and the hashtag trended of Let Julie Swim, of an old lady who'd been using a YMCA swimming pool in Port Townsend in the States for well over 30 years, 3 decades. And she questioned why a person, she asked somebody if they'd got a penis, and this person that Julie said was watching girls pull down their bathing costumes, and she expressed a concern and said, she asked this person if they'd got a penis, and she's been banned from the YMCA. That's created a lot of press now, and I really do support Julie. I stand with Julie Jamin. I think it's really awful what's happened to her, but this is trans ideology in the making. And city officials in Port Townsend are not really taking it very seriously, apparently. In fact, somebody's suggesting that they're leading a hate campaign against women. I think that this hate campaign against women is definitely, been launched in many other areas of the Western world. I mean, Wales, for example, I mean, are they really supporting women, by, allowing this gender nonsense in their governments, it's doing what it's doing. I mean, Wales is certainly becoming more and more gender, whatever you can call it. I mean, they're stuck in a gender ideology now. That it's ridiculous what they're doing. I mean, it's unbelievable. So in the trans, basically the Alan Turing Centre has come under condemnation, let's say, after a poster has been photographed instructing women not to approach somebody if they think they're in the wrong bathroom. It's been displayed in the Alan Turing Institute. I mean, Alan Turing was a hero. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful that they're using Alan Turing, for gender nonsense, for gender ideology. But I mean, when women aren't allowed, which is what this poster is saying, women are not allowed to, when women are not allowed to assert their boundaries, something is very wrong. When little girls aren't allowed to assert their boundaries, it's very, very wrong, and the government need to act. Alan Turing, as I say, was an hero. The people responsible for implementing this filth are not. Women should have a right to express their concerns if they believe somebody's in the wrong bathroom. If a man's in the bathroom, they've got a right to say something. They've got a right to assert their boundaries. What they're doing in the Alan Turing Institute is completely wrong, and at least it's been brought out. At least it's been photographed. It will remain in history. When people look back at this, we will see what idiots the people were, to do what they're doing. I mean, it's disgraceful. It's insulting, and it's actually not in the interest of women to do this. It's dangerous to women to be putting posters up like that. But yeah, there we go. LGB Drop the T trended on Twitter, and the reason it did is because many in the gay community rejecting trans ideology. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'm seeing more and more people in the LGB community that are rejecting trans ideology. They are speaking out about it, and that's why LGB Drop the T was was trending on Twitter. So it is basically a sham. you know, trans ideology is a sham. Right. So moving on, a pro paedophile organization. This is slightly off the subject, but a pro paedophile organization, which is actually on Twitter. I reported the account. I've not received anything back from Twitter. It's very strange because then, you know, they very often report back on tweets that I've reported. They haven't said anything about this, but it's a pro paedophile organization, and it's placing propaganda letters in UK libraries. They're called Virtuous Pedophiles, and they've got an account on Twitter which I can't get over. I've reported it, and it's still there. It's not been taken down. And this is by a guy, I believe they're called Bly Reid, who claims that he is a paedophile, but he hasn't yet gone out and abused any children. I think it's sick that he's been allowed to put, you know, a Twitter profile on, you know, on this paedophile organization. Is allowed to put a paedophile organization on Twitter. It's very, very concerning, you know, why this person's allowed to do that. But there we go. Right. So yeah, moving on. We've got the Emma Bateman. And she's I don't think I've put it in the information, but it's definitely on my Getter and Twitter account. Emma Bateman is the well, she says, I am the co-chair of the Green Party Women, and I'm challenging the Green Party to stand up for science and sex-based rights. And she's got a crowdfunder in because the Green Party must respect sex, do you know what I mean? Which it must, and she's fighting for that within the Green Party. It was a very interesting read, very interesting that she's doing it. A very brave woman. I'm not Green. I'm not going to vote for the Green Party myself. I think they've got to change quite a lot before I vote for them. I won't be voting for them, but you know, she may, you know, she may do something good for the Green Party, and the crowdfunder is there. So yeah, that's brilliant for this great woman. And there was one thing that I noticed as well, that this molecular geneticist has been arguing at the UC Berkeley. She's been arguing why trans women should not be treated as women. Well, I don't think trans women should be treated as women. Trans women are trans women. They're not women. You know, they've been given a title in law of trans women. They should not be treated as women. And I did see the actual clip of this woman fighting. She's quite good. Quite interesting. But yeah, I totally agree with her. And I think more and more people are speaking out, which is really good, on gender ideology and why trans women should not be treated as women. They shouldn't be in women's sports, shouldn't be in women's spaces, really. But, you know, we need changes, and that's it. Another one, which is very interesting, and this is a very, very interesting one, because I put this up, and I will say what Dr. Andrew Fox, okay. Well, let me read what he said. So he said that opposing biological males in women's sport cost me my job as Austin's fire chaplain, and now I'm suing. I really don't agree that he should have lost his job because he's simply opposing biological males. I oppose biological males in women's sports, and I actually, in any circumstances, they shouldn't be in there. And ironically, LinkedIn have removed that post. So it's a post to Fox News, okay? And LinkedIn have removed that post. They've said that I violated their rules by highlighting this. So all I did was, you know, put that, and all I said was males, however they identify, don't belong in female sports in any circumstances, under what Dr. Andrew Fox had said. And they've removed my post. I've put it on my Substack. And incidentally, if anybody wants to join me on Substack, I subscribe to my Substack. The information, the actual link is below. You can subscribe to my Substack. There'll be a lot more information coming out on that. But I'm really surprised that LinkedIn have removed this. They've said it's violated rules. Well, you know, LinkedIn are trying to silence me then, because I'm concerned that Dr. Andrew Fox has been sacked, you know, for simply opposing biological males in women's sports, because it's been done on the LGB platform, which the trans lobby have hijacked. You know, this is not in the interests of, you know, sacking Dr. Andrew Fox isn't in the interests of gay, lesbian, and bisexual people. It's not in the interests of anybody, really, but it's certainly not in the interests of them. And I really hope and wish that more lesbian, gays, and bisexual people will wake up to the dangers of what trans ideology are doing. Because I think you've got a very angry, a very pissed off Dr. Andrew Fox there. And I'm very angry that I'm being silenced on LinkedIn for simply highlighting what's happened to him. Very, very weird, very strange that LinkedIn have done that. I've made 2 appeals. They haven't got back to me. But they have got back to me. They won't. After 2 appeals, they won't put the post back up. It was quite a popular post as well. There was quite a lot of people liked it, or quite a lot of comments. Quite a lot of people agreed with Dr. Andrew Fox. You know, they agreed with what I'm saying. You know, but it's been taken down. It's a shame of what these silicon social medias have become. That they're not working in the interests of women. They're not working in the interests of people who are simply trying to protect women's sports. It's awful. So, as mentioned earlier, radical gender theory is now it's been pushed into more than 4,000 US schools, and this is from children from very young ages. Like I've said previous, you know, gender ideology that's been pushed onto children is confusing children about the gender, and this is where it all starts. They go to the gender clinic, they get the puberty blockers, they get the hormones, they get the unnecessary surgery. A lot of them do, because they're all pushed into it because it's the only way. And boom, they wake up and realize, oh dear, why were these people allowed to do this horrific thing to me by castrating them or amputating the breasts? We see more and more detransitioners coming out. We see many, many mistakes. And this is where it's starting. It's starting in schools. You know, if you confuse people in schools about gender, they're going to be confused about gender, particularly vulnerable people, you know, particularly mentally ill children, particularly children who are suffering from, you know, autism and things like that. These are the people they're attacking, you know, and even gay and lesbian people themselves. They're trying to confuse them about the sexuality, something LGB Alliance regularly points out. You know, that LGBT people are being confused about the sexuality, thinking they're in the wrong body, and particularly lesbian and gay people. But even bisexual people, you know, they've been confused. And then when they wake up and think, well, actually, no, I was a lesbian all along, or I was a gay man all along. I'm seeing it time and time again. It's really, really horrific. And here we've got disgusted parents in Wales that have launched an emergency legal action to stop gender classes for 3-year-old pupils. You know, 3-year-olds being taught about gender. Like I've said, we know what happens. They confuse 3-year-olds at gender, what gender they're born in. They confuse them about gender. It goes on and on and on, and then suddenly they're put into the gender clinics. They're giving them, fast tracking them on puberty blockers, tracking them on cross-sex hormones, and the next thing they are having the surgeries, having the breasts amputated. It's really horrible what's happening. And this is where it's all coming from. I mean, how can anybody think that it's right to be teaching, you know, gender classes for 3 years old? But, you know, the trans lobby don't care. They're aggressive. They want to, you know, destroy these children, and that's what's happening. This is not about helping trans children. This is about destroying children, and that's what's happening. You know, they don't care about children. They don't care how many people's lives get ruined. They're really not bothered. And that's why, if you're gay, lesbian, and bisexual, you should listen, you know, to what all these people that have walked away from this gender nonsense are saying. You know, you should join us. You should speak out yourself. You should support the people that are speaking out, because what's happening to our vulnerable children, what's happening to women's sport, what's happening to women's rights and women's spaces is all going to come back on you in the future. It's all going to be come back on this platform, the gay rights platform, in the future. Gay people are going to get the blame. So, you know, you need to wake up. You need to see what is happening. You know, you need to wake up to what is happening. You need to look at what's happening, you know. Right. So a little more talk about LGB Alliance and why they're being attacked. You know, it's very, very simple that, you know, they're being attacked because they're the only LGB organization, and the trans lobby don't like that. And therefore, lesbian, gay, and bisexual people can't have their own organization. There are charities out there that condemn, LGBT people. They don't, they're against LGBT people. Some of the religious charities in the United Kingdom are very much against LGBT people. They speak regularly, out against the gay community. Yet the trans lobby never mentioned them because, of course, they're not affecting the trans lobby. They're only affecting the lesbian and gay bisexual community. In fact, some of these religious organisations want lesbian kids to be cured, as it was. And that's exactly, I think there was a very famous comment in the Tavistock amongst the staff that at the rate they were going, at the rate they were transing our children, there's going to be no lesbian and gay people left, and the reality is that this is where we are. You know, like I say, I mean, please, if you can, wherever you're watching this, I know this is now cross-platformed. I know that this is on other platforms. I know people watch this afterwards. If you can, please help defend LGB Alliance's charity status. I should have mentioned right at the beginning of the film that I have no connection to LGB Alliance as well. I'm only, I'm a supporter. I've donated money to LGB Alliance. I will be going to LGB Alliance's conference in October, but I'm not connected to LGB Alliance in any way. But I think it's apart from that, obviously, apart from donating money and being a supporter. But what I wanted to say is, don't let Ghastly Mermaids and their ilk, strip this quite important charity, of their charity status. What people are doing is wrong, and I think in the future we'll see that. In the future, we're going to see a lot of different things. I'm regularly contacted now by lesbians, gays, bisexuals, everybody who are telling me that they're now subscribing to they're no longer subscribing to a gender ideology that they couldn't believe wasn't connected to lesbian, gay, and the LGBT community. They couldn't believe it was an LGBT issue. They couldn't believe that it wasn't an LGBT issue, and they're subscribing they're now not subscribing to these things. And I think really women's sports are waking the Western world up, because most people, the overwhelming majority of people, are against it. But I do ask these overwhelming majority of people, please do speak out, or at least support the people who are speaking out. There's loads of people out there that are speaking out about this, because if you don't speak out about this, women's sports will end. There will be no such thing as women's sports again. I'm so glad that British Rugby, triathlon, Irish rugby, and other sporting bodies are now removing males, however they identify, from female sports, because it's not fair. It's not right, that women have got to lose their medals. It's not right that women have got to share their changing rooms, their showers, their toilets with men who are full intact. They've got full intact male genitalia. This is not fair. It's not right. And we need more people to speak out. But yeah, if you do want to support LGB Alliance, like I say again, it's in the information below. You can donate to their crowdfunder. Mermaids are not going to win. They can't. There's no way they can win. I've seen the evidence that Mermaids has put forward, and it literally is nothing. They're not going to win, but you can support them by donating. But more importantly, just share, the actual crowdfunder, and the crowdfunder might get shared from you, and it might just go all over the place. So it's really really appreciative, if you could do that. At least share it, you know what I mean? And at least then, more and more people are seeing it. More and more people can see LGB Alliance, and they can actually become aware about LGB Alliance, because a lot of people don't know LGB Alliance exists. It's it was only last year that Manchester started kicking off about LGB Alliance, and saying, oh, LGB Alliance is transphobic, which of course they're not, but it's because trans activists had gone all over social media, and made and just smeared lies about them. And people, of course, don't listen to anything else. They're just listening to what other people said. And that's how Manchester started to find out about LGBT Alliance. So a lot of people don't know they exist. So please make it a full awareness. One last thing I wanted to say, and it is in the information below, I think. It's about it is. It's a petition to support Australian women in an Australian prison they've bravely created a petition to have a man removed from their jail. I mean, housing men in women's prisons is actually and should be considered a human rights violation. But they have actually, created their own petition. So if you can support that, that'd be great. I think it's in the information. It's definitely on my Twitter and it's on my Getter, but I think it's in the information as well. So please do sign this petition to support the women in the Australian prison who have bravely created a petition, to have a man removed from their spaces, which is quite rightly so. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining me on this. I mean, I'm really ill with COVID as well, but I thought the show must go on. But I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. There's been quite a few people coming in and out. There's a few watching, and there'll be a few. There'll be people watching on. Other platforms as well, and people watching in the future. I'm on usually on a Saturday at 7 p.m. Turf Island time and a Wednesday 7 p.m. Turf Island time. So please join me. Let's have a chat. And if you've got any suggestions of what we can do with the show, the stream, should I say, just let me know in the comments. You DM me on Twitter or Getter. And yeah, I mean, it's been great chatting. It's been great highlighting. I know that there's quite a lot of people interested as to why LGB Alliance has regularly been, attacked. And thank you, Amy, for joining me. Yeah, you have a great weekend too. Take care. I think I'll feel better. I mean, I've had this for about 3 days now, and I feel better. This is the day that I actually feel a bit better, to be honest. So I will be feeling. I'm sure tomorrow when I wake up, I will feel a bit better. But yeah, thank you for caring. That's really appreciated. So I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you for watching, and I would look forward to seeing you on future streams. Goodbye.